It's finally here, Final Cut Pro for the iPad. It felt like it was never going to happen, and then suddenly Apple dropped it on us. So in this video, we're going to take a very quick tour, and I'm going to show you around the new version of Final Cut Pro for iPad. I'll show you exactly what it can do, and we're going to answer the question, is it going to be worth your $4.99 a month for this version of Final Cut Pro? Keep watching to find out. Hey there, welcome to the video. Now, if you love Final Cut Pro, you're in the right place because we have a ton of Final Cut Pro content on this channel, and we're the people who make those color-coded keyboards for Final Cut Pro too. So make sure to give the channel a subscribe. Now, in this video, I'm gonna run through basically the whole interface and show you how this version of Final Cut Pro works, basically from importing a project to exporting a project, some of the new features and tools, and I'm also going to shine a light on some of the things that are missing. So let's jump straight in and take a look. So let's just jump into Final Cut Pro. And this is what happens when you first open it up. So if you want to create a new project, basically tap the new project here in the bottom left-hand corner. Give your project a name. I'm going to be super inventive and call it test. And then if you want to go to timeline settings here, it will default as automatic, and it's going to take whatever clip you throw in first as the project settings. I always like to go to custom. If you tap that, you've got options here for 4K, for HD and 720p. You can do landscape or portrait, great for social media. Your color space of Rec 709 or HDR, and then frame rates. We're in the UK, so we're going to select 25 frames a second, and then click continue. Now, when you create a new project, there's some important things to note here that I've noticed. First of all, you can import footage from an external SSD, but you can't edit from a hard drive, which is a bit of a shame, and I really hope Apple fixes this because this is something you can do in LumaFusion. And for me, I like to keep everything organized and backed up on external hard drives. So unfortunately, you are gonna have to import files directly to your iPad to get them working. So I'm gonna select import from files, we're gonna tap that, and then we're gonna go to the SSD that's popped up here in the left-hand side. And then we did a little video on the ZV-1 Mark I. So I'm going to open that folder. It says ZV-1 there for Lewis. And unfortunately, another thing you can't do here is multi-select clips. So you can see here, I've already organized this folder, and it says HD slow motion, lower light, 4K, macro close-up, and regular. Unfortunately, if I want to say import this full folder, I actually have to go through and tap the clips like this, which is a bit of a pain because you can't even preview them at this stage. So I'm going to import these, click open, and then within a second, you can see it's imported the clips in here, and we are now into Final Cut Pro. Now, what I like about this is that it does actually look a lot like the desktop version, but there are some big differences here. So first of all, let's take a look along the top here. You can see we have this button here. This is where you import your videos or photos from. You can see we've got the photos option or the files option. To the right here, we've got the camera button. Now this means you now have a pro camera. You can control your shutter speed of your iPad directly from here, which is great. This is also at the moment where you record a voiceover, and I'll show you that in a minute with the SL600 microphone. There doesn't seem to be a record voiceover section, which I thought, damn, that's a big shame. But what you can do is you can use this, set the USB microphone as your input, and then just take the audio. So I'll show you that in a minute. Gonna click done on there. Next up, we have markup. I'm gonna quickly show you this. So let's just drag this clip in here of the beach in Cornwall. Basically, let's play through it. And let's hit our keyboard shortcuts. I to mark in, and then I'm gonna hit O to mark out, and I'm gonna hit the E shortcut to bring that onto the timeline. Now you can, of course, just click and drag it onto the timeline as well, but you know, we like using shortcuts here, so I'm gonna quickly do that. Now, let's have a look. Let's just zoom in. I'm gonna pinch to zoom, something you can't do on the desktop, and I'm gonna bring the marker to here, sorry, the sort of timeline to here, and then I'm gonna hit this little icon up here, which is the markup icon. Now what we can do in this new version of Final Cut is we can actually draw using the Apple Pencil directly into Final Cut. So if I want to do a title here, this is St. Ives Cornwall. I can type this on like this, do some arrows, do some animation. Sorry about the handwriting, click done. But the magic here is that it's actually going to animate this. So if I press space on this here, you can see it's animating that directly within Final Cut Pro. And I really do love this new feature. This is going to be super handy for us. Sometimes we do videos where we show off specifications, or we want to just point to a USB port or something like that. This is going to enable us to actually do these animations manually, which is going to be really cool. And I think a lot of creators are going to like using this. Unfortunately, you can't just send this across to the desktop version. So you are going to have to do this on the iPad version and then send it across. But I think that's pretty cool. So next up, when you have completed a project, and of course, we're jumping ahead a bit here, you can click this button at the top here. You can export the video, the audio only. You've got current frame, or you can go to Final Cut Pro for iPad project. I'm going to do a whole video on that just to quickly show you how you can take a project from your iPad to desktop and work on that. I'll do that in another video, but that's where you would do that. Along the top here, we have the effects, we have your project media, effects, and we have this little jog wheel here. So I'll show you how that works in a moment. So what you can do, which is similar to the desktop version, is you can add keywords. So if I want to add a keyword there and call this beach, we've then got that keyword there. And then if I want to also do that for this one, I can tick the little key icon here, add beach to that. So you can add things like keywords. You can also mark in and out just like you would on the desktop as well by pressing the I and the O keys, or using your finger and just dragging these in and out points with your finger to wherever you want them to be. Okay, so let's take a look at the inspector. Normally this is on the top right hand side of the iPad, but I'm going to bring the playhead to here, and you can see it's in the bottom left corner. Now I did start to think, why have they put it down there? But I think it's because when you're using your iPad with your hands, they've actually created the UI around it being touch-based, which is of course what they should do for the iPad. And that means your thumbs are always going to be near the bottom of the screen. So I actually like that they've put these buttons here at the bottom. You've got inspect, volume, animate and multicam, and on the right, you've got your ability to kind of split clips, delete clips, and that kind of thing. And I like that. I like that they've done that. They've thought that through, and that works really well. So I'm going to go on to inspect here and just show you around the inspect. So we've got format, we've got clip speed. Unfortunately, there is no speed ramping at the moment. We've got opacity, we can bring that down if you've got clips underneath. Blend modes. Now, something else which is really cool here at the bottom, and I'm going to do a full video on this as well, is this color conversion. You know when you bring in an HDR shot from your iPhone, the Dolby Vision footage from your iPhone, you bring it into Final Cut and it just looks so blown out, you know, it's really hard to repair. This is the new feature which is going to fix that for you. You can drag that in, it's going to automatically detect that it's HDR footage, and then it's going to improve the color profile, make it Rec 709, so everything looks perfect. Finally, it's been in Premiere for a couple of weeks, so I'm glad to see it's now in Final Cut. That's there. And then along the top here, we can change this. So we have our transform tools, we've got scale to fit, we've got our anchor points, and we've got additional crop tools like Ken Burns, auto crop. So if you have 16:9 footage and you want to re-export it for social media, you can do that in here. Let's go back. We've got our audio controls here. We can fade in and out. So if I tap that, we can adjust the fade, and you can see here on the timeline, that fade's happening at the start there. We've also got some really good voice isolation and enhancement tools here that are in Final Cut, and they work super well. I was really impressed when Apple brought those out. So we've got voice isolation, loudness, and noise removal. Super handy. If you've used these, it pretty much means you can use a quite crappy sounding microphone, flick these on, and the audio comes out sounding really, really well. If you've got background noise, it gets rid of it and it works super well. So I'm pleased that's here. You can also add audio effects here, just like you can from the desktop version. And your single band EQ or a compressor, you can add those on and then play with those. Next, we're going to go across and we're going to go through to effects. Now, this is where it gets a little bit challenging because we can add an effect, and usually one of the main things you want to do in Final Cut Pro is start doing some color adjustments. And I like to play around with the color wheels. It's what I use most to color correct my footage. Now, when you add this, you've only got these sliders. There's no color wheels at the moment or scopes or anything like that, which is a bit disappointing. And I really hope Apple adds this soon. But essentially, you've just got these little sliders that you can slide left and right. There's no histograms or anything to bring up, so you've got to do everything by eye. So I think, it's okay. You can definitely get the job done and improve things. I'm just going to do some little changes here by eye. Let's have a look at that. I'm just going to make this viewer a little bit bigger. And you can just drag with your finger to make everything bigger. Take the black point down. And by eye, this kind of is starting to look okay. If I now scroll to the top, I can click the disable button here, and then we can see what it looks like before and after. A little bit gray there, and now saturation is boosted. So it works well. You'll be able to do some sort of basic color corrections or, well, quite advanced color corrections, but you just won't be able to know if it sits within the parameters that you would normally like to see. So I'm hoping Apple does add that pretty soon. Next up, let's quickly talk about this little thing here on the right-hand side of the screen. Now this is essentially a digital version of a jog shuttle, and this is going to allow you to really precisely go frame by frame throughout your project. And I think because this is aimed at touch, this is going to be super handy. So if you just want to go through one frame, you can do that. You can actually see the frame on the shuttle as well. You can hit the cross to get rid of that and then move it around somewhere else, or tap the icon in the top right to get rid of that completely. So that's the new jog shuttle function. Next up, if we go to volume, you have the ability here to control your volume. So I'm just going to tap the clip here. You can see you can adjust the sliders. We can also add keyframes as well. We can animate, and you've got sort of quite a few options here. One thing you don't have is speed ramping, which is a shame, but you can see we've got scale, position, anchor, exposure, contrast. So whilst you can do quite a lot, you just can't do speed ramping yet. So just be aware of that. Another thing I've noticed as well is there's no stabilization as well. So if you have any shaky footage, at the moment, there's no way you can stabilize the footage within Final Cut Pro for the iPad. And then let's take a look at multicam. So let's just say you have got a few multicam clips. Let's create a new multicam. This isn't multicam footage, but I'm just going to drag these bits in here. It's going to synchronize with audio. It's probably going to fail because they're not in order, but essentially you can now multicam with your finger, just like this, tapping through as you're playing to do an edit, which is really good, and I think it's going to make multicam a little bit more fun and a little bit easier to use as well. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the new effects. So we've got effects, a lot of color effects here. I'm just going to scroll through these. You can drag and drop these on just like you can in Final Cut Pro. We've got blurs, we've got crops, fisheyes, mirrors, vignettes, corner masks. Something really cool we've got here is the scene removal mask. Now I'm going to cover this in the next video because this is really quite cool. You know all the videos we've done on masking and where you have text masking behind you? This can help make that process instant. It's going to be super cool. I've tried it out. It works really, really well. There is a bit of setup involved, which is why I'm going to do that as a separate little tiny video, but we're going to show you that, and it's so, so cool. We've got new transitions here, which you can scroll through. We've got blurs, just a lot of the things that you would expect from the desktop version, they've actually brought through. I'm quite surprised by the amount of effects and transitions they've brought through from the desktop version, which is good. There's also some new ones at the bottom here. We've got new titles as well, as well as some of the old ones, or they look like the old ones, they've been renamed. Some new titles here, which you can of course edit and adjust to your liking. We've got backgrounds, new dynamic backgrounds as well, which look pretty nice. And this works really well actually with the scene removal tool. So if you want to cut yourself out, put yourself in the corner of a video and then use one of these backgrounds, you can definitely do that. We've got objects such as counting, time code, and basic shapes like thumbs up and the play buttons, handy for videos like this. Okay, next is soundtracks. So there isn't hundreds and hundreds of tracks, but they have produced a few really good ones. But what I like about this is you can pull in one of these soundtracks, and as you can see, this would be too long for our project. And if we were to end it here, it would end like this. and just carry on playing. But what you can do, a little bit like you can do in iMovie, is you can just drag, pull it across, and then this is going to make it, using AI, to the exact length of your video. So if we play this through now, it should just fade out. There we go. So it perfectly fits your project. So super handy if you want to add a little bit of music to certain parts of your video, and either that part of the video is too short or too long, Final Cut Pro on the iPad can sort that out for you. Now, just like on the desktop version, you do have the options here to turn snapping on and off, and the position on and off as well. You've got the options here. They do give a little bit more description about each project as well. You can read those and see if you want to turn those on and off yourself. You can change the clip heights. You can zoom in and out as well to do that, but that's there. And then you've got different tools here on the left-hand side. Now, what we like is they are including almost all of the keyboard shortcuts. And I think ones like the blade tool seem to be missing at the moment, but we're actually going to add them to the new Editor's Keys shortcut cover for the iPad, because I've got a funny feeling they are going to add the desktop shortcuts for things like marker, which is missing, the blade tool, which is missing, onto this version in another update. So we'll be putting them on our cover just in case they come out, and if you want to use your cover with the full desktop version of Final Cut Pro. But you can see here, so we've got additional clips. We've got the edge, the range, and the clip there. We've got information in the center about our project. And then let's say we're happy and we want to export this. You can hit the export button here. And if we hit video, they've made it really nice and simple, which is what I like. You can include the video and audio. You've got high quality, which does a ProRes 422. It's going to be a huge file. You've got smaller size, and then you've got social platform. So if you're uploading to Facebook or YouTube, this is probably the best one to use. And then you can choose if you want HEVC, H.264, the resolution, the file type, and the color space. And then you hit export, and it's going to export it to the Photos app on your iPad. Now, as I'm creating these little edits, one thing you'll notice is I'm using the Apple Pencil, and I don't tend to use the Apple Pencil a lot, but I like this little feature they've got here if you've got a 4th gen iPad. If you just hold the Apple Pencil close to the screen, not actually touch the screen, you can use it to kind of hover through your timeline and drag the timeline across. So super handy if you want to preview some video fast without actually altering anything. I really like that, and it's going to be interesting to see what other new features they add. This also works for some of the buttons on here as well. So if you hold them close, you can see it's almost activating the button just like that. Have a play around with that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, now we're looking at color. There might be one thing which is a little frustrating. If we go to the inspector, try as you might, there are unfortunately no way to add your own custom LUTs at the moment. Again, this is something I think Apple will surely add in a future update, because almost everyone who's into video uses LUTs at some point, whether it's even just to fix a DJI drone or it's a more cinematic style. Maybe you've used some of the Editor's Keys LUTs. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to use those right now, but I think they'll be coming soon. Now, you may notice that there doesn't seem to be an option here to record any voiceover, but I have found a way to record a voiceover on the iPad, and you have to do it using the little camera function up there. So let me show you how that works. So what we need to do first of all is plug your microphone in. This is the SL600 USB microphone with a USB-C cable. I'm then going to go up to the camera up the top here, and then obviously we are going to record a video, so this isn't perfect. But what you can do is, if you see the little kind of volume icon going up and down here, the little volume meter, press the settings button and then go across to audio, and then you can see the input source has changed from iPad to Editor's Keys SL600 microphone. This means that I'm now going to be able to press record. It's going to record a video, but it's going to record the audio from this mic. So that's a way that you can record voiceover at the moment into the iPad Pro, and then you can simply detach the audio or hide the video section, however you like. But this is the only way at the moment you can record voiceover into the iPad version of Final Cut Pro without using another app. So a bit clunky, but that's a workaround if you do need to record voiceover in Final Cut. So that is just a very, very quick look at Final Cut Pro for the iPad. I'm going to do a full beginner's guide for Final Cut Pro, so if you want to learn how to use all of the tools, we are going to do the automatic scene removal as a video, and I'm going to show you how you can take a project from iPad to the desktop and then work in it that way. So if you want to see those videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.